The pandemic's had an enormous impact on kids and families. High school athletes say they're missing out on college scholarships.
Divorce attorneys say they are overwhelmed with families absolutely in chaos, and domestic violence petitions, well, they're at a near 10-year high.
In part 2 of our Cincinnati's Lost Year series, investigative reporter Paula Christian looks at fallout some tri-state families are facing from the pandemic, plus how lessons learned are also providing some hope.
Hey, Mama, do get a good kick.
The road back to the football field is tough for Western Hills High School senior Chris Scott.
It's just been a long process.
When the pandemic hit in the spring, he was on crutches after surgery for a football injury. The quarantine forced his physical therapy sessions to go from 3 times a week to 1. In desperation, he did his own therapy at home.
I would pack my backpack with the books I had, and I would use the books in my backpack to squat.
Then, just as Scott was getting healthy enough to play, the Cincinnati Public School Board, fearing the spread of COVID, canceled games until mid-September. This while athletes at most other tri-state schools got to play.
Very frustrating.
Scott's story isn't unique in the pandemic, but it is part of Cincinnati's lost year, defined by personal stories of loss most of us might not see. Therapists like Jennifer Palmer of Greater Cincinnati Behavioral Health Services say it could be years until they know how deeply the pandemic shutdowns have affected the youngest members of society, like Scott.
So anxiety, depression, anger, a lot of anger and irritability.
Charlie Heyman is a senior and a soccer player at Walnut Hills High School. He worries that his dream of playing soccer in college may not happen. He lost his spring season, where college coaches usually show up to recruit, to the shutdown.
So that definitely hurt the chances of me playing in college.
He's also not been able to return to Walnut Hills for his senior year. The school remains closed and learning is virtual. For Charlie, the pandemic itself also hit close to home. He lost his grandfather to COVID in May.
So just having all that stripped away is kind of disheartening.
Last one.
Cole Veal is also worried about where he'll go to college next year. He is a linebacker for East Central High School, who is still waiting for a college offer.
Since this quarantine has hit and COVID, I can't really visit any schools.
The NCAA put all Division I recruiting on hold until January 1st.
I'd definitely be sad about it because I love the sport of football. I've done it since I've been in kindergarten.
Dr. Jessica Bunce is a clinical psychologist specializing in young athletes. She says athletes are grieving lost seasons and missed recruiting, but she's most worried about teens who are living in unstable families.
For those that are in less safe home environments, that's where some of the concern has been.
I compare it to being in a pressure cooker.
Divorce attorneys like Sean Evans say they're seeing more turmoil at home.
Not only do you have the added stresses of financial uncertainty, you have the additional element of homeschooling children, working from home, everyone living together. Emotions get very high.
Evans says she's also seeing more violence, substance abuse, and fighting from couples who are seeking a divorce this year. She and her law partner, Trista Goldberg, blame the pandemic.
It's stressful for a well-functioning family. It's chaotic for a family who's in distress.
Experts worry that children will be more fearful of innocent behavior like coughing when the pandemic ends and the masks come off. They also worry about a gap in development for children that could take years to come back. But for some families, there may be a silver lining.
One of the long-lasting effects of this pandemic, I think, could be that parents and children are actually more connected.
Cincinnati Children's Hospital psychiatrist Dr. Courtney Cinco believes all the time families are spending together during the quarantine could build lasting bonds.
That maybe our families become stronger.
For Chris Scott, who did finally get back to the football field last month, he says the pandemic has taught him resilience and patience.
It changed my perspective on life as it is, just making me value the time I have now and just spend my time wisely.
Paula Christian, WCPO 9 IT.